Hey guys, I'm home with a sick Ethan today. Sorry about that. So I thought I'd prepare a quick screencast to talk about a couple of the skill-based things that you'll be asked to do tomorrow. I've prepared some word problems for you guys to work on in class, and email will be coming about how those are going to work. Okay, so let's suppose that I wanted to do I'm just going to pick one randomly. Let's do number 10 from completing the square. Okay, 10 from completing the square. So that's r squared plus 18r plus 12 equals 5, right? And remember, there are any number of ways we could try to solve this. We could get 0 on a side and factor. We could use the quadratic formula, but we're told here to complete the square. Okay, so to complete the square, right, we want to get everything that doesn't have an r onto the right side, right? So we want to move 12 over to the right side. Okay, and we're going to get r squared plus 18r equals, I'm going to leave a space there, remember, equals -7, okay? And then remember, we're going to want to add a box to both sides of the equation. Okay, and what goes in the box, remember, that was as long as this term here is 1, right, we take this guy, 18, we do 18 divided by 2, and we square it. That goes in both boxes, b over 2 squared. Okay, so that was 9, right? 9 squared, 81. And we're going to see why we add 81 to both sides. Remember, if you only add it to 1, you're going to get yourself in trouble. Okay, so the left side now, this thing is a perfect square trinomial, right? We'll rewrite it one more time. 18r plus 81 equals, and over here I think we have 74. Okay, so this left side, we did this so that this factors nicely, right? We don't want to subtract 74. We want to just factor this left side right here. Of course, that factors into r plus 9 squared. R plus 9 squared equals 74. Okay, don't FOIL this. Just leave it alone. We want to take square roots of both sides, right? And then this thing says, hey, r plus something squared is 74. That something could either be plus root 74 or minus root 74. Right, so we're going to get r plus 9 equals plus or minus root 74. And I don't think that, yeah, it's 37 and 2, so that's nothing nice. So we're going to get r equals -9 plus or minus root 74. So what that means, right, you can just leave this here. That's your answer. But you could say r is -9 plus root 74. R is -9 minus root 74. Those are also my two answers. Either one is totally fine to give as a final answer. I'm going to do one more really fast. Let's do 16. Okay, so if you want to do 16, you can pause me and try it. Oh, look, we get r again. Lovely. Don't know why they don't just always use x. Anyway, okay, so I have something that looks like this. First step, get everything to the right. Get everything else to the right. So I'm going to have, we're going to subtract 12 again. Right, so we're going to have minus 15 over here. Okay, add a box to both sides. All right, what goes in there? b over 2 squared. 8 over 2. It's -8, but that's not going to matter because we're squaring it. So that is 16 in the box. 16 in the box. So this left side is now r minus 4 squared. And the right side is just 1. Okay. So we're going to now take my square roots again. Plus or minus square root 1. Well, that, of course, is just 1. So I get r equals 4 plus or minus 1. So that means r is just 5 or 3. 5 or 3, right? 4 plus 1, 4 minus 1. Okay, so that's completing the square. Just picking some random ones. Okay. Factoring, we'll talk about a couple. Okay, we'll talk about a couple. So I want to do one of the ones that, really tripped us up on our mid-year, which is kind of sad, right? So if I have this 28 here, and I have n squared equals negative 7n, and I want to solve this by factoring. Well, factoring, we're always going to want to get everything to the left. We equals 0, right? And then we can use the zero product property once we factor that says, hey, if a times b is 0, then either a is 0 or b is 0. So I want to factor this now. And a lot of you divided by n, or you took square roots of this original thing, and that made me kind of sad. But the first step to any factoring problem is saying, hey, what do these guys share in common? And they share an n. So I'm going to pull an n out, and then what makes n squared? N times n will make 7n, n times 7. So I'm going to be left with something that looks like this. Okay. Well, now I could just use the zero product property, right? And say that either n is 0 or n plus 7 is 0, because they multiply to be 0. So n is 0 or n is negative 7. Those are my two solutions there. Okay, I want to do maybe a couple that are just one, we'll say, that where maybe I don't have a nicer coefficient in front of my, we'll do 39, I guess, 39. And I can add more practice to this if we want. So, right, that's 3x squared plus 20 equals 17x. Get everything to the left. I'm going to write it in a slightly different order. Subtract 17x. I'm left with this. Okay, so remember, we said, what multiplies to be 3x squared? Well, I know there's going to be a 3x, and I know there's an x because 3 is prime. Okay, and then I'm going to have something that multiplies to be 20, and because this is a negative, I know it has to be minus and a minus. Okay, so what multiplies to be 20, and they're both negative? Well, we'll have a little scratch work over here. Negative 1 and negative 20. Negative 2 and negative 10. Negative 4 and negative 5. And then because of this 3, order matters. So we have to have negative 5, negative 4, negative 10, negative 2, negative 20, negative 1. Okay, and remember, one of these guys is being multiplied by 3, and the other one is multiplied by 1, and they need to add to 17, to add to negative 17, right? So I think it's pretty clear, right, that we're going to want this guy here, where if I have minus 5 and minus 4, right? Because then when we FOIL here, this gives me a minus 12x, this gives me a minus 5x, so that's what gives me minus 17. So that's how we factor, right? We just have to think a little bit, okay? These ones are a little bit challenging. We can do them, okay? And then I know that either 3x minus 5 is 0 or x minus 4 is 0, right? So this would be 3x equals 5 or x equals 5/3, and this would be x equals 4. Okay, so we get these two answers. And the last one that we're going to look at is the quadratic formula. Okay, the quadratic formula. So let's look at the quadratic formula. And I want to do one that, let's do 48. Okay, if I have 48 and I have 12k squared equals negative 6k plus 15. Okay, well, we got to get everything on one side. Okay, now, we could go straight into the quadratic formula, which remember, it's x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You need to memorize that. But if I plug it in right now, these are big numbers, okay? And I'm going to have some really big numbers here that might be tough to deal with, okay? So I want to look first and say, do these guys share anything in common? And yes, they do, right? They all have a 3. And because this is an equation with an equal sign, I can divide by 3. I don't have to factor 3 out. I could just divide by it. So if I divide both sides by 3, I'm going to get 4k squared plus 2k minus 5 equals 0. Well, those are much smaller numbers when we're going to be plugging into the quadratic formula. Okay, so we're going to get k equals, right, so here we have a is 4, b is 2, and c is negative 5. So k equals negative b, so it's negative 2, plus or minus the square root of b squared, that's 4, minus 4a That's 4 times c, negative 5, all over 2 times 4. Okay. Well, let's do some order of operations work, right? So we want to do what's inside that square root first. So that's what? Negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 4, and then this is a minus minus because there's a multiplication there. So it's going to actually be plus 16 times 5. 16 times 5, that's 80 all over 8. So that is really negative 2 plus or minus root 84 over 8. 4 goes into 84, right? 21 times. So we'd say this is negative 2 plus or minus root 4 root 21 over 8, or negative 2 plus or minus 2 root 21 over 8. And then I could take a 2 out of every single thing. So I could be left with negative 1 plus or minus root 21 over 4. I think that's as simple as it gets. Okay? So, I think we should be good with the quadratic formula. I'll do one more just for fun. I don't know. We'll do 57. Okay? We'll do 57 pretty quick. Okay, so 57 is 2n squared equals 9n plus 7. Okay, let's move everything to the left. I can't divide by anything, right? So a is 2, b is negative 9, c is negative 7. And so we're going to get n equals negative b, so that's positive 9, plus or minus the square root of b squared, that's 81, minus 4 times 2 times negative 7, all over 2 times 2, 2a. Okay, so that's 9 plus or minus the square root of 81. And again, we have this minus minus, so that's a plus. Plus 8 times 7, that's 56 over 4. What is that, 137? 9 plus or minus root 137 over 4. I don't know that that is going to simplify at all. I don't think it does. I don't know if anything goes in there. Anyway, I don't think anything does. So, we're good just leaving it like this. Okay. So, I hope that was helpful. Whoever's with you tomorrow, maybe it'll be me on the smartboard, I don't know. We'll have some word problems for you. There are 3 of them. I want you to focus on the first 2, but we should be able to think about the third one, right? We've done a lot of those. But we should definitely be able to do the first 2 for our assessment on Wednesday. I'll be available via email. Again, I'm sorry I'm not there. And if you found this screencast helpful, I'm definitely willing to do some more if there are specific problems you'd like me to go over, or if you want me to do the word problems later, I can. All right.